Hello and welcome back to a Shock the Fourth Wall! So, there's already a holiday special for Hellraiser. What's another time period that really doesn't feel like it should have anything specifically to do with the Cenobites? Ooh! Summer!
Girls are always ready for a summer of love, summer of love. Go looking for love.
How'd that guy get in there? But yeah, Hellraiser Summer Special. You know, it's funny, I'm probably gonna get more hate for using that terrible, terrible song in that montage than I will for the fact that I put it together with all those gore scenes. Anyway, yeah, I don't know how these things got made. I don't understand what went through their minds for this, and the one we'll be looking at next week. It's just bizarre to me. Instead, let me take this opportunity to do a quick rundown on my thoughts on all the individual Hellraiser movies in case you're curious. Classic. Obviously a classic. I don't know how you could be a fan of this franchise and not like the original. It's just damn good, and even with all the stellar performances, gotta love Andrew Robinson, aka Garrick from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Also damn good. There are a few little things I dislike, but it expands the story, dips even farther into the horrific, and just feels like a good sequel that some would argue is better than the original. Ugh, gave my thoughts on the review of the comic. It's just not good. Underrated. Many decry it as Hellraiser in space, but really the space thing is just a framing device, telling a story over the course of many generations. It's nowhere near perfect, and it's still got some issues, but I can't hate it, especially for providing one of the best Pinhead lines of the franchise.
For God's sake. Do I look like someone who cares what God thinks?
The first of the direct-to-video sequels that just took another script and slapped Hellraiser on it. And honestly, I think it's still pretty good. I get major Silent Hill vibes from it. And for direct-to-video, the effects are not terrible at all. This one's okay. It's got some good ideas, and it's great to see the return of Kirsty, but the effects are not as well executed, and it feels a bit repetitive at times. Mixed bag. There are some good ideas, definitely stuff that's horrific, but the plot is kind of all over the place, and Pinhead is the only redeeming factor. Awful. Just awful. Watch Phalis or Dina's reviews for more details, but just terrible in every regard. The first in a while that's actually written to be a Hellraiser movie. And it's atrocious. It's also the first without Doug Bradley as Pinhead, and the two guys they have playing him, one for his voice and the other the physical body, both suck. The voice isn't deep or commanding enough, the kid they've got playing Pinhead looks confused and bored, and we keep cutting to him standing around doing nothing. Remember my joke last week about the Cenobites being Lego Man-sized until the box is opened? Yeah, that seems to be the case here, as often those cutaways to Pinhead seem to imply that he's just inside the box and listening in on the people outside of it. Speaking of, yeah, the plot is bad, mostly taking place in a single house with uninteresting characters and family drama that goes nowhere. A few good ideas, but arguably it is the worst Hellraiser movie by far. Severely underrated. I actually really like this one. The guy doing Pinhead in this one is a massive improvement, possessing both the regal dignity of Pinhead while having a voice that commands attention. The plot isn't anything that special, but the characters are a lot more interesting, as well as expanding the mythology for the first time in a long while, with another order of demons who are a bit grosser, but the Auditor is a delight, and I would love to see him return in another Hellraiser movie. So with that out of the way, let's dig into Clive Barker's Hellraiser Summer Special and enjoy some fun in the sun! And hooks and chains, can't forget those.
Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your
crazy or not.
Girls are always ready for a summer of love. Going out and looking for love.
The cover is a bit icky. Lots of hooks in a person's face, stretching it everywhere. I mean, it's kind of cartoonish how far it goes, to the point where even their hair is being pulled every which way. But I can understand why this might make people squirm a bit. Also, it doesn't really scream summer. Do you have sunburn? Boy, do I have an unconventional treatment for you. What I did on my summer vacation. Oh god, it's the Tandy Computer Whiz Kids! They were Cenobites this whole time! And the TRS-80 was their puzzle box! Oh no! Like the holiday special, it's an anthology comic, but with a framing story surrounding it. And thus we begin that framing story, The Lesson, where we see a woman running and screaming in a Catholic school. Sister Mary Frances knew she was going to hell. She just didn't think it'd be so soon. She didn't think the department transfer papers would be processed so quickly. She knew as soon as she caught her eye wandering over the cover of Stud Boy magazine while shopping for, feminine hygiene products at the 5 and Dime. Not for the porno mag, of course. It just turns out that God hates tampons. So when the devils took her hair, she felt she was getting just what she deserved. Well, good news, sister. You're not going to hell. You just have to be bald. Honestly, I think that's a pretty good trade-off for not being damned for all eternity. The narrator is Father Parody, taking bets on whether that name was deliberate or not, who is explaining this to the new teacher, Miss Neal, who needs to take over for Sister Mary Frances's class. He bemoans the kids, claiming they're little devils, while Miss Neal is more understanding of them having to get readjusted again after summer vacation. What's more, he claims they're responsible for destroying Sister Mary Frances's wig. It's not the Inquisition, Father. At that moment, Pinhead leaps out and proclaims, "No one escapes the Cenobite Inquisition!" He grumbles about how she's just a substitute teacher, but she shoos him off so she can talk to the kids directly, hoping to get the truth out of them without being a colossal asshat. She makes a joke about him to the kids, and they get a good laugh. Wanting to learn more, she goes up to a kid who has a bunch of drawings all over him. Let's start with you. Joey, right? I've heard all about your top percentage Rattata. Since Joey seems shy, she invites him to talk about his summer vacation, and thus he begins his story, Baby Cakes, which begins with a woman chained up in some kind of surgical operating room with a bunch of cables hooked up to her. 9 months. 9 months of whiteness and loneliness and feeling the child grow inside her. And yet still not the worst HMO she's had to deal with. We learned that this woman wanted a baby, but she was barren. Adoption agencies rejected her for being a single parent, and even the black market turned her away because she didn't have the money for one. But there was still one place she hadn't tried. Hell. This is a weird remake of Rosemary's Baby. We see that she has a lament configuration. She knew of the Cenobites, knew what they could do, what they were capable of. Their advertising campaign on TV and radio had worked. They had taken children. Perhaps they could give her one. And these first two examples are of them not taking children. Seriously, both of these are from the issue we looked at last week, where they outright refused to take babies from pregnant women. Anyway, even if they can't just give her a baby, maybe she could have some rockin' sex with a Cenobite. They seem like the best people for this. The Cenobite who shows up is practically normal compared to most we've seen. He's just got some weird piercings on his forehead and spiky armor, which she seems only too happy to rub up against. Mind your face, lady. Her grinding up against him makes it clear what she wants. Many experiences are possible. What exactly do you want? I want a child. Whoa, lady! I'm from hell, and even we are not that messed up. Now, of course, she wants to become impregnated, and he agrees to help her get many children. However, when she lays back to start, she suddenly finds herself in the surgical room we saw at the start, waiting there for 9 months as the baby develops. She's artificially inseminated, which is really weird for the Cenobites since their entire deal is extreme sex. Although, I don't know, maybe it's just this dude's kink. After 9 months, the baby is born, but she's horrified to find the markings all over his body. Said markings actually indicate places where the baby can be folded and twisted. It is indeed an extraordinary child. It is a Cenobite, but it is also a lament configuration, all rolled up in one tidy package. If you boop its nose, it opens up a portal for the engineer. Don't ask what happens when it needs to pee. Properly handled, your children will open the doorway to a new realm in hell. Improperly handled, and they will open a doorway to the janitor's closet. And so the story ends as another demon prepares to impregnate her again and again. The woman forever trapped to be a birthing machine for these kids. And that's what Joey seems to be, one of the Cenobite Lament configuration babies. Did you like it? It was fine, Joey, but I asked what you did on your summer vacation. Were you only born last month or something? Miss Neal is, of course, disturbed by this. Like can mean so many things to so many people. Like if you didn't know better, you'd say my puzzle was a phallic symbol. The boner configuration. Miss Neal asks about Sister Mary Francis's wig, but no one wants to talk about that. A girl named Anne wants to talk about her summer vacation. Beginning the story, The Devil's Absolution. This one is in the summer of 1966 near Marseille, France. At a villa, members of a crime family are meeting. First, we'll drink a pastis, Aldo. Then we'll talk. Whatever you say, meme. Okay, I'm sure it's actually supposed to be pronounced like meme or something here, but I can't help but think this guy is supposed to be like that stock photo of the dude checking out another woman while his girlfriend is pissed. Meme is angry that Aldo has been selling drugs inside of France against his orders. The family needs to move with the times, Meme. Your conscience is out of date. It expired 2 weeks ago, and you still haven't gone to get a new one. When he persists in insulting Meme, he and his goons just shoot Aldo and dump his body over the cliffs. Annie was nearby hearing all this, singing Alouette, and it seems she's Meme's granddaughter. We cut to 26 years later in Malibu, where Annie is all grown up and attending a party. Okay, now I really have to question whether or not this happened during Annie's summer vacation. After the main party is over, a Texan woman named Bambi is brought out to an after-party. That consists of them using a puzzle box to summon a Cenobite. I summon thee, O worm face. Thy call is answered. Where is thy gift? And make it quick, half of my face is being used as bait for my weekend fishing trip with Pinhead. Wormface plucks off the woman's head. And they also stab her for some reason. And back over at the Mafia house, Meme is being dragged out of retirement for some advice. Business ain't the same these days, full of punks that ain't got no honor. Even Nazis again. Nazis? Man, can you imagine if the Nazis came back? Oh God, we live in hell. Meme laments that back in their day, they still knew the difference between good and evil. We did what we had to survive. And what we had to do to get the palatial mansion, but I'm pretty sure we needed that to survive. He informs Meme of how Annie seems to be involved with some very bad people and wants to fix things, but Meme says that since this is family business, only one of the family can fix it, so he elects to head there and straighten things out. At another party, it's Annie's turn to be the sacrifice, much to her shock. But as they summon Wormface, Meme shows up with a gun and starts shooting the partygoers. One of them tries to get Wormface to intervene, but of course he just stands there. Do you think he cares? Imbeciles. To him, you're pigs, meat animals, just like the Nazis. The Nazis were meat animals to the Cenobites? Meme informs Wormface that he knows what it is and isn't frightened, insisting on taking Annie back with him. My granddaughter, she doesn't belong with you. But she does. My worms have tasted her soul. It tasted of grape jelly and mustard. Wormface is strangely unperturbed and cooperative about this whole thing, though only objects when Meme insists on taking the puzzle box as well. And he repels Wormface by shooting at him? Wait, so guns could take out Cenobites this whole time? No wonder they needed Atkins. They had to level the playing field. After they return to France, Meme asks Annie why she engaged in all these terrible things, that it could damage her soul. She reminds him that he's a murderer, and she's been surrounded by his murdering since she was a little girl. It's a brief bit, but it's a lot of character stuff condensed into it, with Meme defending himself by claiming that he's made atonement and that the priest has absolved him of his sins. See, that means his murders are A-okay. Don't worry about it. After several nights where Annie has nightmares about what happened, Meme realizes he can only resolve this himself, contacting Wormface again. He agrees to go with him if this will relieve her of the nightmares. Maybe an absolution from hell will succeed where the church has failed. I'm not Catholic, but I am pretty sure that's not how that works, dude. He recognizes that his wickedness was the true source of her pain, and now that he's gone, she might be free of it. Perhaps, but for you, nothing exists but a gulf of fathomless despair. You shall let Leviathan's glory set your heart afire. You shall learn the true delight that cannot rot. Paintball night on Thursdays. Credit where it's due, he's defiant to the end. Wormface says he'll obey, and his last words alive are, "I will not."
You gonna be the worm face!
After Annie laments his loss, we cut back to the classroom. Annie has made a cat's cradle, though she says it's a spider's web, and Miss Neal writes up a letter for her parents. Between your stories and, associations, I really think we need to schedule a parent-teacher conference. I mean, you're either a 25-year-old woman or you're the granddaughter of a mafia boss. Neither option is that great for your continued education here. Why don't we try someone a little less eager this time, Maybe then teacher can keep her lunch down, Wow, you've got a really weak stomach if that last story was that bad for you. Or did Annie go into detail about Wormface's, well, face? She asks Ernesto for the next summer vacation story, as he's just moved to the area from Central America. And thus he begins his story, For My Son, which takes place in the South Bronx in New York City. Okay, in the past, I have demonstrated that I suck at geography, but please don't tell me that I have been wrong this whole time and New York City is actually located in Central America. Actually, it's a story told from the perspective of Ernesto's father. He and Ernesto had moved to New York from El Salvador, where he is certain they would have died had they stayed due to a dictator murdering people. But now they're dealing with extreme poverty and are going hungry. Ernesto's mother is already dead, and the father has to work in a sweatshop sewing clothes. Naturally, nothing about this situation is good. If immigration finds out about him, they'll be sent to their deaths. They make $2 an hour, and as demonstrated when one worker severely injures her hand on one of the machines, the people running the sweatshop do not give two craps about the workers, threatening to call immigration on them if they talk about the conditions, and docking the father's pay for using some of the fabric to wrap up the bleeding hand. And it's stories like this one that remind you that compared to some of the worst of humanity, the Cenobites are amateurs at the art of making people suffer. But yeah, it kinda sucks for the two right now. Not made any easier when the next day the sweatshop is raided by immigration officials. His asshole boss points out Ernesto's father in particular and he panics, running off even though there's no real sign that they're chasing him. He runs down into the subway past the fare machines and just keeps running, especially when he thinks the police are being called due to him tripping and the running and the beating the fare and etc. He runs into a woman and baby that fall onto the tracks and, well, yeah, they're killed by an oncoming train. He even jumps the tracks himself after it passes, though he spots a train coming, but then suddenly finds himself in a strange doorway. When he enters into it, it's pitch black, with only some of his matches to light the way. As he starts navigating the dark tunnels, even finding an oil lantern, he reasons that he'll have to go to prison to atone for the people he accidentally killed. Though thinks that'd be for the best, Ernesto would be placed with a foster family. On the ground, he finds a subway map, though all the paths lead back to a diamond shape in the center, aka Leviathan, the god of the Cenobites from Hellraiser 2. As a reminder, the Epic Comics series expanded on the mythology a bit and frequently invoked Leviathan. But yeah, he's not giving up on escaping the tunnel. I can do this. I can find my way out. This is no more than a puzzle. A game! Unfortunately, it turned out to be a collectible card game. We cut to a year later. The father continues to narrate, talking about how Ernesto has found a new home. In fact, Ernesto goes to visit his father's old sweatshop boss to commission some jackets to be made with a certain diamond shape on the back. He instructs the owner to create the pattern himself and pays very well for quality work of the recreation of said pattern, implying that there's drug money behind this. However, as he contemplates turning in the drug runners to give himself a lighter sentence for his impending charges for the sweatshop, he completes the design, and is met by a rather inhuman-looking Cenobite that stretches his body into, well, that. And he's still alive. Also, is it just me, or does the Cenobite somewhat resemble a sewing machine? But yeah, this is the ultimate fate of Ernesto's father, a Cenobite in Leviathan's service. The payment for solving the puzzle of the subway tunnels. As I mentioned during the review of the holiday special, the ongoing series introduced some new puzzles that could summon the Cenobites. And sometimes the puzzles were like the ones seen here, more like traveling down a specific pathway or making a design. Although I feel like there should be some more warning labels about which ones get your flesh stretched and which ones give you a job offer. Sorry if that one was more summarization than joke-telling. It's surprisingly long and kind of depressing, especially in light of real-world stuff going on at the time of this video's creation. However, since this is also supposed to be a comedy show, here's David Spade and Pinhead again.
Do you have the new Cosmo?
That is the new one.
The one with Cindy Crawford?
Back in the classroom, Ernesto says his father would say it's hot as hell, but Miss Neal interrupts before he finishes. That's quite alright. I can guess the place your father would use as a comparison. Yeah, not comparison, we've got a typo there. There are also some typos in Annie's story, using the wrong spelling of her name within it. Nothing too pervasive, just something I noticed. Anyway, after spotting a graphic jigsaw puzzle amongst their toys, Miss Neal has started to lose her patience with the kids, especially since they're not closer to figuring out where Sister Mary Frances' hair is. One of the girls, Tina, gets upset when she threatens to bring Father Parody back in, and she apologizes for losing her temper. I scared you, didn't I? Uh-huh, scared me. And Sister Mary Frances taught us, do unto others. So let me tell you about Marville, Miss Neal. And thus we head to our final story, Old Wives' Tale, the direct-to-video sequel of The First Wives Club. Cenobites are surprisingly still involved. It's New York again, where a bunch of kids are playing on a playground, with Tina in particular playing hopscotch and singing about stepping on a crack and breaking your mother's back. However, after she actually steps on a crack, she learns that her mother did indeed break her back falling down a long flight of stairs, and vows never to play the game again, nor did she even play with her friends anymore. Instead, she spent her recess fiddling with a strange puzzle. Why would there be filler text in the middle of the Shakespeare puzzle? What, are we supposed to assume the first two lines of this one are King Lear, and the two after are Macbeth? The other volumes take up 4 lines each, so why would these be just 2? Tina didn't talk to anyone. She wouldn't even eat lunch. All she wanted to do was play with her box.
Hey, phrasing!
Her teacher, Evelyn Wong, tries to intervene and convince her that what happened to her mother was not her fault. She mentions how, as a child, she used to believe that there were monsters under her bed, but it was just her imagination. She offers to hold on to the lament configuration she's been playing with and give it back when she's ready for it, Tina making her promise to take care of it. Make sure you take care of it, Miss Wong. I need it back. Me and Chatterer are supposed to have dinner tonight. I'm gonna give him a makeover. That evening, Miss Wong stays behind in her classroom to grade papers and plan tomorrow's workload when a woman barges in with crazy eyes screaming at her that she's teaching lies to her students. You know, a common thing that happens at public schools. She doesn't say who she is, simply telling her that the monsters under her bed were real, proving that she knows what she's talking about by knowing the name Miss Wong gave to one of the creatures. She says that Miss Wong should come with her to St. Mark's Hospital. I know lots of things, and I want to show you, prove to you that the old stories are true. You can get Mew from under the truck, I believe! Assuming that she's an escaped mental patient, Miss Wong humors her and follows her as she continues. You see, Miss Wong, there's a reason the old stories are still around. They were created by the Cenobites as a way of establishing order. It was felt that the best way to run an orderly universe is to reach people when they're young. Wouldn't it be more convincing if the Cenobites showed up in the middle of, like, Times Square or something and said, hey, run an orderly society or we'll tear your soul apart? Why I'm not really that enthusiastic about the retcons made to the Cenobites in the Epic Comics stuff. It's not bad, not at all, and produces some excellent stories, but the original idea of the Cenobites was about a group of neutral creatures, not necessarily demons, that just had gone so far in their pursuit of hedonistic pleasures that self-mutilation, and mutilating others, was the only way for them to feel anything anymore, subsequently why they could no longer distinguish between pain and pleasure. In the movies, they just became demons of punishment and wanting to do evil for evil's sake. It doesn't make the movies bad. As I said, I quite enjoy most of the Hellraiser sequels. It just feels like they took something that was unique and interesting and made them less unique and interesting. And that's the same for the comics, where their new purpose is as demon servants of Leviathan, who wish to spread order in all things. Again, it's not a terrible thing, and they do some fascinating stuff with it, but it's still just making them garden variety demons, and you start scratching your head when you think about the whole order thing, and wonder what aspect of order involves attaching your lower lip to your nipple. or having worms for a face. And frankly, their method of facilitating order seems disorderly and too small a scale by utilizing the puzzles. I don't know, maybe I'm talking out of my ass here. It's just a thing that kind of bugs me. Children are very trusting, Miss Wong. They tend to believe anything they're told, especially what they're told by their parents, or teachers, or YouTubers. The old stories have been passed down through the ages. That's why you heard the same stories your parents did, and why children are still hearing them today. Are they, though? How many of those kids know the sacrifices of Bob Corby, damn it? Entering the hospital, Miss Wong realizes how empty it is, the woman leading her to a special wing. Ah, yes, here we are. The wing of the children who didn't believe. When someone did got your nose, they didn't really think that their nose had been got. Now, hoo boy, this is something. It's a collection of children who have been mutilated for... Well, here are the reasons. Here is Tommy, who found out what happens when you sit too close to the TV set. This is Steven, who learned that if you touch yourself too often, your palms will grow hair and you'll go blind. Next we have Bruce, who found out that if you keep making faces, your face will become stuck like that. Wow. That is remarkably stupid. Where do I even start with that? Like, medically, socially. Yes, I know, this is the series featuring evil, hellish puzzle boxes containing demons that torture and mutilate, but that is just dumb. Then there's David, who just found that if you die in your dreams, you die in real life. That's just because Freddy Krueger got to him, you asshole. That's why he was in the montage at the beginning. Finally, we have Jack, who crossed his heart and hoped to die. So somebody stuck a needle in his eye! That seems more like the problem of whatever psychopath jabbed the needles into his eye, and less about the old stories, lady. What kind of hospital is this? These children need help! I'm gonna get a doctor! Don't worry, we've already called in a doctor to fix this mess and sort out the idiots who diagnosed these kids.
I would make him apologize personally, but I'm having him spend the rest of the day checking that countertop's heartbeat.
The woman starts transforming into a bizarre creature, saying that the old wives' tales are a way of instilling order in the minds of the young, of structure in their lives, a form of propaganda to make their minds think a certain way. No one is coming to help these children! They are beyond help! Yeah, I'm deferring to the other doctor's assessment.
Keith! I think Mr. Countertop would really appreciate your undivided attention.
But yeah, this nightmare thing says that it's a guardian for the puzzle box and demands Miss Wong give it back to Tina. With the creature threatening to return the monsters from under her bed, Miss Wong goes and does just that, telling Tina and the other kids that the tales are true, that fear of things like stepping on a crack gives them structure, and keeps us all in line. So they need to keep the tales and fear alive. That's right, keep those kids good and afraid, Miss Wong. You wouldn't want them to try to defeat the hellish monsters threatening them. Back to the classroom. And that's what I did on my summer vacation. That was during the school year! And don't tell me it was summer school or some crap like that. That's not summer vacation then! For some reason, Tina has morphed the lament configuration she was playing with into the Leviathan diamond shape from Hellbound, and Miss Neal is at the end of her rope, wondering what the hell has gotten into these kids. And we see that above the kids' heads at the ceiling is a small Cenobite creature that's holding the missing wig. The kids say that nothing has gotten into them, but rather hell is where they got into. And so our comic ends with the kids saying they tried to show Sister Mary Frances where they went, but her hair came off. But they'll show Miss Neal instead. And the Cenobite creature lowers down some kind of bladed contraption towards her head. By the time this thing is done, everyone in this school will be bald! Anyway, again, anthology, so needs to be judged individually for each story. But if we judge it as a summer special, it sucks. Although individually, the stories are overall pretty good. The weakest, in my opinion, is Old Wives' Tale. Not because of the concept of telling children lies and superstitions to force them to order their minds a certain way, but in the execution of it. Larger myths and fairy tales I get. Using basic stuff like cross my heart, hope to die, or step on a crack, break my mother's back, is just idiotic and demonstrably false in every way. Hell, just based on the fact that the monsters under Miss Wong's bed eventually went away means that their whole, ooh, it's all real thing is bullcrap, since why would you ever have them go away? Of course adults growing up will tell them it's not real unless you keep the threat present. The idea of it has some merit, but the things the writer chose to use for it were a bad call. The Devil's Absolution was good, though the artwork was a bit muddy. Same goes for To My Son. Baby Cakes had the best art in my opinion, and definitely the most straightforward Hellraiser-style story, though the other ones, while unconventional, still work within the universe, so I have no problem there. My issue stems from them calling this a summer special and having the framing story be them talking about what they did on their summer vacation, when none of them talk about what they did on their summer vacations. There's nothing summery about any of this, and despite these stories supposedly being told by the kids, we have radically different narrators, time jumps, and perspectives framing them. So if the kids are telling the stories, how is that even working? Like, did Ernesto say, now I'm my father and I wanted to make sure me and my son don't die in El Salvador, so we moved to the Bronx? The big joke everyone was making when I announced this episode, including Dr. Crafty in the title card, was that this would be like a Hellraiser swimsuit issue. But no, the summer vacation idea in the framing story was the only thing making this in any way related to the summer. And they still screwed that up. This is really no different than any other regular issue of the ongoing series. Change the names of the characters, and you could slap any of the other Hellraiser stories from the anthology in there, and it would have made no difference. I mean, I suppose you could say, well, it's just because it came out in the summer. But then why have the summer vacation framing device at all, and not just have the kids tell Miss Neal their own life stories or something? Or just call it a Hellraiser special without attaching the season to it. Like I said, the individual stories are fine, arguably quite good, but I take a bit of umbrage at the bait and switch with the title. Next time, we have one last Hellraiser seasonal special to haunt us, as we turn the clock back a bit more to the Hellraiser Spring Slaughter. '90s dude? '90s what? Dude, it's me, Bulbasaur enthusiast! Are you doing another name change? Because people are still having problems not calling you kid anymore, right? What was I saying? Whoa, dude, what happened to you? Your outfit changed. What? Oh, it hasn't. Ugh! What the hell was that? Dude, what happened? For a moment there, I was not the most radical person in here. Oh, I knew it, it's finally happening. Halloween is finally striking. This is what Halloween is to me. It's not trick-or-treating or apple bobbing or parties or anything spoopy. It's just horror. Horror for 31 days. Something going wrong for no real reason. Preaching to the quiet, kid, but what are we supposed to do about it? What's causing all this? Hard to say. Your DNA seems slightly off. Off? What the hell's that supposed to mean? It's like you don't belong here, or... Wait. It's back to normal again, Harvey. Harvey? Dude, it's me. I know, I was just talking to you. No, I remember now. You changed into Harvey for a second there. So I was Harvey? Yeah. How was my singing? You weren't singing. Dude's last name is Fine Voice. I'm pretty sure that means he's always singing.
Hey guys, something weird's going on. The cats turned into foam lizards like me and then into birds before going back into cats.
The same thing's happening in here.
You're turning into birds?
No, everything's just shifting and changing.
Well, how do we stop it?
Merlin, contact Comicron 1. See if you can reach Dr. Linksano. By your command. Information. Dr. Linksano is contacting you. Linkara, are you receiving me? Yes, what's her status? Something unusual is going on down there. There's something like a dimensional leakage, other realities spilling into our own. Have you noticed anything unusual happening? Not in the last couple of minutes, but something is definitely going on. Keep us apprised. Will do. Comicron 1's own shielding should protect it from any changes in reality. Good to hear. Monitor things as best as you can. You'll be able to tell if anything is shifted. Okay, overly enthusiastic Slinky promoter. Try to see if you can create a pocket dimension or something we can slip into. You know, maybe try to preserve ourselves for as long as possible. I will slink off and do that. Everyone loves a slinky. Eliza.
What is this? It's disgusting.
Coordinate with the Robomats. Maybe there's a person responsible for this we can track down.
Will do. Good to know that everything is staying normal for the time being, Linkara. Will do. Good to know that everything is staying normal for the time being, Viga.
Did you just repeat that?
I'm pretty sure I didn't.
Okay, just talk to the Cyberbats.
On it!
Hello, my friends. Please be sure to like this video, subscribe, hit the bell, and share it with others. And if you get a chance, maybe check out my Patreon.